this is the Provoked Prawn, and this is the Roccat Kone XP Air. This is a wireless version of Roccat's Kone XP mouse, which is one of my favourite mice of late, and now it's even better thanks to wireless connectivity and its own little charging dock, which offers rapid charging capabilities, and the mouse itself has up to 100 hours of battery life. As you can see, it has some striking RGB lighting and a mass of programmable buttons that includes a 4D mouse wheel, which means it has left and right tilt. A number of buttons on the side with easy access. You can see there are 4 thumb buttons, for example, and then an easy shift button at the bottom of the ergonomic thumb rest. So essentially you can press that and then get access to a secondary layer of actions. More on that a bit later on, but that makes it fantastic. And then as you can see, it has this 3D RGB lighting within the shell. Now this is an interesting mouse for a number of different reasons, so I'm going to unbox it here and show you what's included in the box, and then I'm going to talk about the various highlights and features of it and what I like and don't like about it. And this mouse is available in both black and white. I reviewed the black version of the wired mouse recently, so I'll leave a link to that in the description so you can see the difference between them. And now I have the white wireless one, and they are quite different in their design and in terms of the aesthetics from being black and white, but they're also very striking in the overall aesthetic anyway. Really nice looking mice, and the Kone XP was really well thought out, and so the Kone XP Air is as well. Now the same problem that I had with the Kone XP exists with the Air, so I'll mention that a bit later on and talk to you about what that is. But otherwise, this is a really fantastic mouse. Now, it isn't cheap. It does come in at around £149 sterling and probably the same in US dollars. So roughly around there. So it isn't cheap. However, you do get a lot of awesome things for your money because you're getting a 2.4 gigahertz wireless mouse, which you can see the dongle for there on the left, as well as Bluetooth. So it has Bluetooth connectivity if you need it, so you can switch into that. Obviously, all the usual things that you'd expect, but the added bonus of having a charging dock included as standard. Now you'll notice that there is a USB-C cable included in the box, so it's USB-A to USB-C. Now you can plug the mouse in if you need to, but you plug the cable from your PC into the dock, and then when you're not using the mouse, you just simply put it on the dock. That dock is also really easy to dock the mouse with, so there's no faffing around trying to mess about trying to put it on there. I've used Razer mice in the past where the dock was really fiddly and it was difficult to get the mouse on. This one is not the case at all. It's really easy to slip on there, so that obviously means it's really easy to charge. The other bonus of the dock is it also works as a USB pass-through for the dongle, so you can plug the dongle into the dock so that you don't need to take up 2 ports on your PC. You just need one cable plugged in from the dock to your PC, and then you plug the dongle into the dock, and then you're away. So you then have your charging, and you also have the wireless dongle right near your mouse in a lot closer proximity, meaning a really solid connection and no problems there. Obviously 2.4 gigahertz wireless gives you really good dongle connection anyway, but if you do need to take out the dongle and take it with you somewhere, so let's say you're taking a mouse to an event or to a friend's house or something, you can put the dongle inside the mouse on the bottom. You'll see there's a little recess for doing that. From every angle, this mouse looks fantastic, I think. A little later on, I'm going to show you some clips of this dock plugged in properly to my PC, because at this moment it isn't plugged in, but when you do plug it in, it has some RGB lighting on it, so it gives off an RGB glow on your desk. But I wanted to show now initially the process for just docking it, and you can see how simple it is. It just has these 2 little pins on the bottom that connect on the bottom of the mouse, and you just slip it on top of the dock and it just sits there really nicely. Here you can see some of the ergonomics of the mouse as well, and just the access to the various different buttons. There are a lot of buttons here. You have a mass of buttons within easy reach, and as I said, they can be programmed with a secondary layer of actions. So you can use easy shift, which I will show in the Swarm software later on, but basically that means you press and hold one of the buttons on the mouse and then you get access to other ones. Now, this is also interesting because it is reasonably lightweight. It's not really, really lightweight like a lot of other mice I've seen. However, it only weighs in at just over 100 grams. And if you consider that the wired version of the mouse was 100 grams as well, this is really impressive because it means that they've put the receiver for the 2.4 gigahertz and Bluetooth inside the mouse, as well as a battery, and yet it still only weighs 100 grams. So that is pretty impressive that it's not any heavier, considering it's ditched a wire but put in place some extra technology to enable it to connect to your PC and give you a good solid connection. Now, this is using Roccat's Owl-Eye optical sensor, gives you up to 19,000 DPI and obviously adjustable DPI levels as well. And it does use Roccat's Titan optical switches to give you an ultra fast response. So they use an optical light beam to measure your clicks. This also means that they're guaranteed up to 100 million clicks. And I'll leave a test sample at the end so that you can hear the sounds of the clicks if you're curious about that. As you can see, close up look, you can also see this 4D mouse wheel. So basically that has left and right tilt, so you can tilt it to left and right and assign actions to that. So you have, as you can see, absolutely loads of buttons within really easy reach. And the thing that I like about the buttons is the layout's really comfortable as well. They're easy to access and they're easy to feel because of the shape and size of them. You can see they're quite nicely differentiated between them. The bottom row of the thumb buttons is slightly more recessed than the top, so it's really easy to sort of feel which is which when you go to press them. And you'll notice that there's a sort of ridged effect on the thumb rest on the left-hand side. Now, overall, the mouse body is kind of slippery. It's certainly not really grippy. It doesn't have a matte finish to it, for example, and obviously there's no honeycomb holes or anything like that. So it is kind of slick. However, I've certainly not had any problems holding on to it. I haven't found that when my hands get hot, it suddenly becomes really slippery, which is obviously a bonus, and it's a really good setup. And I also really like this mouse for its size. I think that the Kone lineup has always been on the larger side, and that's ideal if you have bigger hands. I personally find this is a great fit for my hand, really comfortable, fits nicely in the hand, and it's easy to keep on using. The one downside that I will say, though, is I think that the layout and logic of that easy shift button on the left hand side isn't that well thought out. So you need to press and hold that button on the bottom of the thumb rest to then activate this secondary layer of actions on the other buttons, which is a bit fiddly and doesn't work terribly well, or at least not for me. Maybe if your thumb's huge, you might not have that experience. So here we are in Roccat's Swarm software, and I'm going to talk to you about a little bit of different things here. And now on the left-hand side of the mouse next to the main left button, you will have noticed that there was two buttons marked plus and minus. Those are DPI levels up and down as standard, so you can see if I press them, it cycles through. As you can see, you can have 5 different levels of DPI going all the way up to 19,000 if you're that crazy. That's obviously quite fast. And you can calibrate it depending on your setup. So you can see that you can calibrate it for your particular mouse mat. Apparently 1600 was good for me. There you go. So it's still on 19,000. Let's set that back down. So 16 actually is reasonably usually what I'd use, to be fair. And then we'll go into the various different other settings. I'll get to button assignment last because that is probably the most interesting. If you go to advanced settings, you can see that you can set the polling rate. So you have 1000 Hertz standard. You'll also notice you have a signal strength from the dongle. It's currently plugged into my PC, so it's a little bit further away, and it is good. If I unplug it and replug it in closer, because it's now plugged into the dongle, you can see now the signal strength is excellent. It is very, very close to the mouse by comparison. So that's a bonus there. You can also adjust the lift-off distance. So you can see you have the option to customize it and calibrate again. And from low, very low. There's also debounce time as well, which is important if you're experiencing double clicks, which theoretically you shouldn't do with this mouse because it has optical switches. So it should be fine. Illumination, you have a number of different settings. I personally prefer the AIMO intelligent lighting. I always find that that's the best for Roccat because it just goes through this really nice organic lighting. But you can turn the lighting off if you don't want to use it, which will obviously save battery life. Now, it is worth noting that I said this has 100 hours of battery life, but the thing is I haven't had to actually plug it in at any point during the use, because once I'm not using it, let's say at the end of the day when I finish working or I finish playing games, I can just put the mouse on the dock and then it's just charging. You don't need to worry about it. But if you forget to do that, you do have the option to use the RGB lighting to show off the battery indicator. So to highlight when the mouse is running low on battery, which is pretty interesting. This is separate RGB from what's included on the dock itself. So the dock has this RGB ring around the bottom, which I'll show some footage of in a second. That basically gives you some RGB glow on the dock, and you can either make it match up with the mouse itself or make it completely different, which is a pretty interesting idea. And you can go through the various different things here, or turn it off if you don't like that. So there's another option. Now, the button assignment is the most interesting thing for me on this. Now, one of the things of note is you will see that there are multiple different profiles here. So you have profile 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on the bottom. This back button here, number 15, is as standard profile cycle. So you can program different profiles and then you can cycle between them. You might have seen me pressing this button earlier on in the video. Essentially, when you do that, it changes not only all the button programs that you've set up, obviously, but also it changes color to let you know which profile you're on. So the mouse RGB changes, and you can see then which profile you're on, because it will go purple for profile 1, white for profile 2, red for profile 3, green for profile 4, and yellow for profile 5. So it's really easy to switch between those and know which one you're on with relative ease, which is pretty neat, and I like that. Another thing that's important to note here is the easy shift. So this is what I was saying. Button 14, which is the bottom left of the thumb rest, is the easy shift button as standard. So what you need to do is press and hold that button, and then you can press any of these other buttons on the mouse to access an extra layer of actions. So you can essentially set up different button presses to do different things when you're holding that easy shift button down. Now, this is great in theory for these top buttons, for the DPI switching button, even for the profile switching button, because it's really easy to hold that button down with your thumb and then press other buttons with your index finger or your ring finger or your middle finger, however you use your hand on your mouse. But what it isn't easy to do is press and hold that thumb button and then press the side buttons. So you can't press the easy shift button and 10, 11, 12, and 13 as side buttons. I don't think. I personally can't negotiate my hand around like that. However, as you can see, as standard, you've got 15 buttons. Now, you don't have to use that easy shift button as an easy shift button. You can go in here and you can reprogram it with other things. You can record a macro, and you'll see that there's various different preset macros for different games. You can assign your own hotkey, so you can basically quickly customize your own key to whatever you want. So you could just type a letter, for example, or you could do a combination of keys. So Control V is one of the options. You can do like Control and V as one of the options there, for examples, that they have elsewhere. Then you can do all sorts of other things. You can also program basically every other button with relative ease as well. So you can see that I have left and right tilt, for example, set to 2 and 3. So if I push my mouse wheel to the left, it does number 2, and if I push it to the right, it does number 3. The reason for that is I've been playing Escape from Tarkov, and that's essentially switching between the two main weapons. So I can just push my mouse wheel left and right, and I'll switch between those two weapons. Also, I've assigned 12 and 13, the bottom thumb buttons, to be melee and grenades, so you have easy access to be able to do that. But if you wanted to have extra actions, obviously you also have the easy shift technology. So there's loads of programmability in here, and 15 buttons are standard, and then the option to have even more through the easy shift makes it even more interesting. Obviously also you could set up different easy shift and standard button layouts depending on what you're doing, and then switch between them different profiles. So you could give them a name, and you could easily set that up as well. And you can also add an application so that when you launch a particular game or program, it will automatically switch to that profile. So you can set up a profile specific for a game the way you like it. Let's say you're playing an FPS game 1 minute and then you're playing an MMO the next. Completely different button logic, completely different macros or whatever else. You can basically set that up so it will automatically switch to that, and you won't even have to think about it. But if you do want to think about it, you can obviously recognize it based on just what the color is so you can easily switch between those with relative ease. Pretty neat, and this is one of the highlights that's hidden about this mouse. So it's on the face of it fantastic, but it's even better once you dive into the software. So here you can see the charging dock on the desk and the glow that that gives off on the surrounding area, and obviously a nice bit of RGB lighting from both that and the mouse itself, both fantastic. And I really can't overstate how wonderful it is to have a charging dock that's really convenient and easy to dock with as well, so that's really handy. So overall, this is probably one of my favourite mice now. Fantastic, comfortable, button rich, features rich, specs rich as well. Don't forget to check the description for the specs and links to find out more. And also a big shout out to my YouTube members for supporting the channel. And if you're interested in finding the benefits of that, click that join button to find out more. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Thanks very much for watching. Stick around now for a sound test.